Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A pleasure to be able to speak to you today.
Hi.
Maybe we could kick off with a brief introduction to the Iron Claw. What can people expect when they watch your movie?
Sure. The Iron Claw is about the Von Erich family. They were a big wrestling family in Texas in the 1980s, and the film explores their sort of rise and fall in the wrestling world, as well as the family dynamics, dynamics between these brothers.
And I know that you've really been a big fan of wrestling, and you were sort of thinking about making this film for a long time. What was it about this family, this story, that really spoke to you?
Well, when I started to look into it, it was like this Greek tragedy set in America, and it had this mythical quality to it, and this very rich themes of masculinity, and I guess the sort of trends within a family, and how do we break those trends. And so it's got all the themes I had, and there's this legend of a family curse hanging over it. So there was like an aspect of genre almost that I was interested in, and I'm always interested in that combination of something sort of genre as well as family drama. So it really had all the pieces for me.
And of course, when you're writing and making a film about, real life story, there's so much opportunity there, but perhaps also some pressure of, how you're going to represent them. And I know even at one, you've decided not to include one of the deaths in the family because it really is tragedy after tragedy. What was that process like of taking their story and translating it to screen?
Yeah, it was just a long process of chipping away, really, at this huge story, and just, coming at it as a fan and someone who loves the family, just, always wanted to treat it with respect and love, and, just trying to make good decisions that were right for the film, but also respectful. So yeah, it was just sort of, caring for it and nurturing it along the way, and getting to the core of the story, which was really about Kevin's survival and how Kevin survived these events and started a new life, essentially.
And this incredible cast, I mean, Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, and Holt McCallany as well. Did you already have these people in mind? How did you bring them together? And the chemistry between them is, absolutely off the chart.
Yeah, I didn't have them in mind when writing, but I wanted to work with all of them individually. They're probably a group of actors I've just wanted to work with for years. So it started with Zac, and then sort of built around him, putting the brothers together, bringing in Lily, for different energy. It was really about building the team and sort of assuming, like thinking they had chemistry. I sort of had an instinct about the chemistry, but you never really know. But when we got together, it was like really a bit of magic. They really are a family, and really just got along so well.
And the incredible stunts they'll pull off, the physicality, the prep that must have gone in.
Yeah.
But then even in the performance, I believe they were actually in front of a live audience doing these kind of one-take wrestles. What was that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. We got, a lot of hard work, a lot of preparation to transform and to learn how to wrestle. But then they were also just particularly good at it. So it allowed us to shoot full matches in front of live audiences. And in that way, the actors can get lost in it, and they can just feel the emotion of it, and that's what was interesting to me, the emotion for the character inside the match as opposed to being about the wrestling itself. So we weren't focused on stunts, we were focused on what the wrestler was going through.
And of course it is really tragic, and you feel a bit beaten up yourself as you're watching it, but there are also all these moments of joy, and even if it's the aesthetic, really leaning into that 80s vibe, the hairstyles, and how much fun they are having when they're together. So those things need to be in balance, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. I wanted to have this like joyous celebration of both wrestling and these brothers and their camaraderie, their time together, the wrestling, the football, the parties, the like downtime, as well as the tragedy that struck and the full emotional impact of that, and and then drift into this sort of like psychological horror almost. It's just it goes into all these different territories, and I wanted to just bring them all together and have it be it was just such an interesting thing to bring it all together.
And this performance, particularly from Zac Efron, he's just within his character. There's so much of the themes of the film. The sort of toxic masculinity. The pressure from this patriarch of the family, but then also the journey that he goes on. What was it like working with him, and how does that kind of give the core of the film, that performance?
Yeah, it was amazing. It's a very quiet performance in some ways, and so a lot of it had to just be about not breaking, not showing emotion too soon, and just really silently processing all these feelings that he wasn't sure how to process. And so it was just about being sort of disciplined and restrained and really working through that. And then and then the combination of that with these incredible athletic wrestling sequences where he could sort of get things out in the ring but not confront them emotionally.
And are we in a better place? Are men allowed to cry? I think sometimes it feels like we're getting close to a place where the people have more acceptance of that, and then other times it feels like we've actually gone a bit backward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both things. I think it's absolutely. I think mental health is a term now, that is allowed to be talked about. Noticed in sports the last couple of years, people finally talking about mental health for athletes, and it's being thrown around a lot. It'll be interesting to see, if it's just a phrase that's thrown around versus like actually something coming of that, which I think is always the challenge. But talking about it's the first thing. So I think it's definitely better, but also, in a lot of ways, there are other times and other situations where it feels like we're making no progress. So, but it's definitely a step forward from where it was.
And it's responsibility as parents, you
Absolutely.
might be thinking you're doing the best thing, but you've got to really think about the impact that it's having on your kids.
Absolutely. I think, looked at the story as being about parents who believe they're doing the best thing. They really do. And not always aware of, the effects it's having if they're so focused on doing the best thing.
Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Can't wait for everyone to see this incredible film.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Chat to you.